F. Scott Fitzgerald's jazz-age novel, The Great Gatsby, was published 100 years ago. It's the tragic tale of a Long Island millionaire and his love for a girl named Daisy. Back then, it received lukewarm reviews and disappointing sales. Now, it's an English class fixture and the topic of movies. My guest today examines the novel further with his book, Gatsby's Secrets. Rob Kyff, a history teacher at Kingswood Oxford School in West Hartford, looks at hidden motifs, moments, and metaphors. Rob, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So good to have you. When this came across my desk, I was so interested in what you were doing. First of all, why do you think The Great Gatsby has endured for 100 years?
I think it has something for everybody, and it has a beautiful language. It's a good story. It's very exciting. There's murders and car crashes and all kinds of drama among couples. And it's also has some profound lessons, I think, for everybody that transcend its own time.
You said you've never taught this, but you set out to re-examine this book and find out secrets. Why?
Because every summer I would read the book. I read it in college for the first time and really loved it, fell in love with it, and I found myself reading it every summer, which is the perfect time to read it because it's set during the summer.
And it's a quick read.
Oh yeah, a 4-hour read. And I just kept finding interesting details that I hadn't noticed before, and some of them other critics have noticed, but I've noticed a few that I think are unique and maybe a contribution to the scholarship of the book.
Let's talk about what you found out and what you also learned further about F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Well, let's start with F. Scott Fitzgerald because this is a very personal book for him. He was a Catholic boy growing up in St. Paul, Minnesota, where the elite were WASPs, and he never felt accepted by the top echelon of his society. And he always was the little boy looking in, and I think that's what Gatsby is. Gatsby is an outsider who grew up on a farm in Minnesota and made himself by making money and through some corrupt means, so he could win back a girl that he had met in the Army in Louisville, Kentucky. But I think we all identify with that idea of striving and trying to get something that maybe is beyond our grasp. And he is an inspirational character, as corrupt and nefarious as he is at times.
What did you find? What hidden messages? What metaphors?
Well, I think the hidden message, really, of the book is the importance of striving, of trying to accomplish things. I think it also shows the importance of understanding ambiguity. That many of the characters have good sides and bad sides. Nick at the end isn't even sure whether Gatsby was a good guy or a bad guy, and he has to make that decision. I also think it says something about America and the American dream, that it's not just about material acquisition. You know, Gatsby has this idea if he makes enough money, he's going to win the love of his life. But it's also about his more spiritual quest for striving for something that's unattainable, and the process of striving is almost more important in the end than getting the goal.
You mentioned material goods, and there's a scene where he's plucking his clothes out of a closet and just throwing shirts upon a table to impress Daisy. What did you find from that scene?
Well, here's an element of that scene which is much debated and discussed about why Daisy cries when she sees the shirts. And I noticed that the dresser from which Daisy takes the shirts is called hulking. It says a hulking dresser. Hulking is a term that she uses to describe her husband, Tom Buchanan. So the idea is that the shirts remind her of Tom, and that Gatsby's become like Tom because he's now into the material goods just as Tom is. So that in a sense she's mourning the loss of her innocent soldier boy from 5 years before, that he's become just as acquisitive and materialistic as her husband is.
After reading your book, I will never see this story in the same light. And I thank you for writing it, and I hope that classrooms across the state use this because it's terrific.
Well, thanks. I think it'd be a great resource resource for any English teacher.
Rob, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Ann.
You bet. And if you'd like to know more on Gatsby's secrets, go to WTNH.com or the News 8 app.